Welcome to Shahnameh, Book of Kings. Today we continue with Kay Khosrow saying goodbye. The great king said to his people, "The road I take now is the one you will take tomorrow. When I have left this wretched earth behind me, I shall commend you to God." His eyelashes were wet with tears as he kissed each one of them farewell. Weeping openly, he embraced the heroes one by one. He said, "Would that I could take all of this company with me." Such a cry went up from the army. The sun lost its way to the heavens. Women and little children wept for him in the streets and bazaars, and the houses were filled with groans and lamentations for the king's passing. The king said, "Glorious for your deeds, and glorious in descent. Rejoice in God's commands, and be content. Now I prepare my soul for death. My name shall live henceforth with undiminished fame. Sorrow has come to guide me, and my heart withdraws from life. I'm ready to depart." He called for a horse, and his soldiers lamented. He rode toward the royal apartments, his cypress statue bent with age and weakness over the pommel. He had 4 women who were beautiful as the sun, such that no man had ever seen except in dreams. He summoned them and told them what was in his heart. He said, "It is time for me to leave this fleeting world. I am tired of the earth's injustice, and you will never see me alive again. Keep your hearts free of pain and grief." But the 4 fainted, and when they revived, they wailed aloud for love and sorrow, and scored their cheeks, and tore out their hair. They ripped their fine clothes and destroyed their jewelry, and cried out to him, "Take us with you from this hateful world. Be our guide to the happiness you seek." The king answered, "The road I take now is the one you will take tomorrow. There Jamshid's sisters live, and great kings in their pomp and glory. My mother, Afrasad's daughter, is there, who fled across the Oxus with me, and Tur's uncomparable daughter, Afrad. The bed and pillow of them all is dust, and I do not know whether they live in hell or heaven. Don't try to deflect me from my journey. It will be easy enough to find me." He wept, and called Lorasp to him, and said to him, "These are my women folk, the glory of my bedchamber. While you are king, grant them the same privileges and quarters they have always had. See that there are no causes of shame to you when God summons you to his presence. Remember, you will see me there, next to Siavash. Do nothing that will humiliate you when you stand before us in the other world." Lorasp agreed to all he said, promising to maintain the king's women and respectable privacy. Then the king bound on his sword belt and went out to address his men, to whom he said, "Have no pain or fear in your hearts because of me. Do not rush to embrace this world, for its depths are but darkness. Live in justice and happiness, and think only well of me." Iran's chieftains bowed their head to the ground, and they said they would remember his advice as long as they lived. He told Lorasp to take up residence in the palace, saying that his own days were now at an end. "Maintain the royal throne in glory. Sow only seeds of righteousness in this world. When nothing threatens or troubles you, see that the crown and luxury and wealth do not corrupt your soul. Remember that your departure will not be delayed for long, and that the days of your life narrow toward their end. Seek justice. Act with justice. Free those who are just from evil." Lorasp wept and dismounted from his horse and kissed the ground. Kay Khosrow said to him, "Farewell. Be the warp and the woof of justice in this world." Zal, Rostam, Gudaz, Jiv, Bizan, and Gastaham, together with Kava's son, Faraborz, who made a 7th, and Tus, who made an 8th, accompanied by their separate bands of troops, went with Kay Khosrow as he made his way from the plain to the mountain foothills. They were rested for a week, moistening their dry lips, wailing and weeping at the king's decision. No man could reconcile himself to such sorrow, and the priest said in secret that no one had ever heard of a king acting in this way. When the sun rose over the mountain peaks, groups came from every direction, 100,000 Persian men and women weeping before the king. All the mountainside was filled with the sounds of mourning, and the granite slopes re-echoed with their cries. They said, "Great king, what has filled your bright soul with such pain and confusion? If you are angry with the army, or if you are tired of the crown, tell us why, but do not quit the Persian throne, or hold the crown in contempt. Stay, and we shall be the dust beneath your horses' hooves, the slaves your eternal flame. But where is your knowledge, your judgment, your wisdom? The angel Sorish never appeared to a king before, nor even to Feridun. We pray before God and in our fire temples that God will grant our desires, and that the priest's heart will look favorably on us." The king was astonished at this outpouring and called his priest to him. He said, "What happens from now on is a blessing, and why should men weep at a blessing? Be grateful to God, be pure and God-fearing. Do not grieve at my departure, for we shall all be reunited soon enough." Then he turned to his chieftains and said, "Descend this mountainside without your king. The road ahead is long, hard, and waterless, without vegetation or shade. No one can traverse these slopes unless he has the divine Far to help him." 3 of his heroes, Zal, Rostam, and Gudaz, heard him and obeyed him. But Tus, Jiv, Fariborz, Bizan, and Gostaham did not turn back. The group went forward for a day into the night, weakened by the wilderness and lack of water. Then they came on a stream where they refreshed themselves and rested. The king said to his followers, "Well, stay the night and talk over the past. You won't see me for much longer now. When the shining sun unfurls its banner and turns the purple land a land of liquid gold, the time for me to depart from you will have come. Then I shall meet Sorish. If my heart trembles at his last journey, I shall tear its darkness from my side." When part of the night had passed, Koshrow bent over the stream and washed his head and body in its clear water, murmuring the words of Zen Avesta as he did so. Then he addressed his companions. "Farewell forever. When the sun's first beams appear, henceforth I'll come to you in my dreams. But you will never see me here again. Go back tomorrow to the Persian plain. Even if musk should rain down far and wide, don't linger on this lonely mountainside. A wind will blow here soon, a wind to freeze the mountain slopes and uproot stalwart trees. From dark clouds snow will fall, and you'll lose your way back to your Persian home if you delay." Weary and saddened by his words, they wept. Uneasy at last, the heroes slept, and when the dawn light touched their resting place, the king had gone, leaving no earthly trace. They searched the desolate mountain slopes, but as they found no sign of him, they returned to the stream like men insensible with grief, and in their hearts they bade a last farewell to the world's king. Fariborz said, "I can't believe that Koshrov's words were wise. The earth is warm and soft, and the weather's clear. Given what we've suffered, I don't think it's reasonable for us to set off immediately. We should rest and eat, and after we've slept, we can leave this stream and go back." They camped by the stream and went over what Koshrow had done, saying that no one had ever seen or heard of such a wonder. Would he, even if he remained in this world for a long time, as this departure of the king which they had witnessed? They lamented his good fortune and wisdom, his greatness and nobility, but they added that the wise would laugh at the notion that a man could go before God while he was still alive. Who knew what had befallen of Koshrow? And what could they say when people refused to believe them? Jiv said, "No hero has ever heard of a man who was his equal, not for manliness, generosity, wisdom, valor, appearance, stature, glory, or lineage. Leading his troops in battle, he was massive as a mammoth, and presiding crowned at his banquets, he was radiant as the full moon." They ate the provisions they had with them and soon fell asleep. But a wind sprang up, and black clouds amassed. The air became as dark as a lion's maw. A blizzard began to blow, and the snow piled higher than the heroes' lances. One by one they were buried in the snow. For a while they struggled beneath its canopy, trying to clear a space to survive. But finally their strength gave out, and their sweet souls sought release. Rostam, Zal, and Gudaz had waited for 3 days further down the mountainside. As the 4th day dawned, they said, "This has gone on too long. How long must we wait here on these stony slopes? If the king has disappeared from the world, like a wind that blows through a group of heroes and is gone, what has happened to our chieftains? Didn't they follow Koshrow's advice? They waited for a week on the mountainside, but when the week was over, they despaired of seeing their companions again. They mourned for them, and Gudaz tore out his hair and scored his cheeks with his nails. He said, 'No man has ever seen such evil has come to me from the seed of Kavas. I had an army of sons and grandsons, ambitious and noble youths, all of them, and all were slain in the wars of revenge for Siavash, so that our tribe was broken and lost its luster. And now another has disappeared from my sight. Who has seen such sorrows as I have endured?' Zal counseled him at length. 'To be wise is to accept God's justice. They may yet find a way through the snow and return. But we should not stay on this mountainside, and lamentation will not help us. We can set foot soldiers out to look for some trace of them.' Weeping, they made their way down the mountainside, each thinking one or another of lost heroes, of a son or a relative or a friend, and of the king who had been like a cypress overtopping all of the orchard. So turns the world. Her favors are soon past. All whom she nourishes must die at last. One she will raise from earth to heights unknown. One she will cast down from a royal throne. But there's no course to triumph or complain. Such is the way. She turns and turns again. Where are those heroes now? Those champions where? Drive out such mortal thoughts that bring despair. Lorasp became king of Iran, as Koshrow had directed. He had 2 sons, Goshtasp and Zair, and while still a young man, Goshtap demanded that his father name him as heir to the throne. His father refused to do this, and Goshtasp left the court in high dudgeon and traveled to India. His brother Zair was sent to fetch him home again, but no sooner was he back in Iran than he quarreled with his father and set off his troubles again, this time to Rum, where he lived in disguise. There he tried his hand at various occupations, but his royal qualities rendered him unfit for all of them. He was seen by Katayan, the king of Rum's daughter, and she fell in love with him. Reluctantly, the king allowed his daughter to marry the stranger, who had ingratiated himself with the court by killing a wolf and a dragon. Once established as his father-in-law's favorite, he began to threaten Iran. When he finally returned to Iran, accompanied by his Rumi bride, Katayan, Lorasp ceded him to the throne and went into religious retirement in Balkh. At this point, Ferdowsi includes in his text an account by the poet Dakaki of the coming of the prophet of Zoroaster to Goshtap's court, and the acceptance of the court of the new religion promulgated by him. A new king, Arjasp, now reigned in Tehran, and at the prompting of Zoroaster, Goshtap demanded tribute from him. In response, Arjasp attacked Iran. Goshtap's brother, Zair, was killed in the ensuing war, and it was only the valor of Goshtap's son, Esfandar, that was able to drive the Turanian army back. Esfandar is presented as ambitious, but also righteous, chivalrous, and an invincible warrior. He embraced the court's new faith of the Zoroasterism, and with great zeal propagated the faith by the sword. But his enemies at court made his father suspicious of his ambitions for the throne. Goshtap believed the calumny and imprisoned Esfandir. Hearing of this, Arjasp sent an army against Balkh. The city was sacked. Aged Lorasp was killed, and many Persian prisoners, including Esfandir's sisters, were taken back to Tehran. Goshtap, he appealed for help to Rostam, but the now aged hero made his excuses and refused to have anything to do with the situation. Goshtap himself led the counterattack and was defeated, barely escaping from the battlefield with his life. His counselor, Jamasp, advised him that only Esfandir can save the situation. Esfandir was released from prison and drove back the Turanian army. Goshtap then again asked Esfandir to travel deep into Turanian territory to rescue his sisters, who were being held in a fortress made of brass. Esfandir's journey to the brass fortress involved him in a series of 7 trials, which closely paralleled the trials undergone by Rostam when he traveled to Manzadarian to rescue Kavas from captivity. During the rescue, Arjasp was killed, and Esfandir then returned in triumph to Iran, fully expecting to be given royal honors by his father. But Goshtap had one more task in store for him. Well, here's where we end our tale for today. But I'll be back tomorrow with more tales, many more tales. Until then, my friends,